Yo, what's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to the Brian Johnson Show. This is like episode 18, man. It's the rap show. This episode, I wanted to just talk about why I did this podcast and why I started doing this podcast and how it kind of changed my life in a way. And it didn't change my life in a way that it was drastic or some life-changing experience in a way, but it was more so just kind of made me think about a lot of things. 17 straight weeks of doing work, putting out episode after episode can, it'll change you. It'll make you think about different things because you're dealing with so many different people, so many different personalities, and you're digging deep. You're hearing stories that you didn't even expect to hear, and you're talking to people, and it's just a different kind of vibe, a different kind of thing. Like, I didn't expect to be here right now, and the fact that I went through this many for season 1 is amazing. I did it all, and the fact that I was able to do it all on my own was wild to me. When I first started doing this thing, I didn't know much about how to do any kind of voice editing or how to set anything up. I just watched a lot of YouTube videos and just kept learning how to do things. And I think that in itself taught me that if you want to learn something, you don't necessarily need someone to teach you. You just got to be out there and want to do it. You got to just go out there and learn. Trial by error. There was plenty of mistakes that I made, and I fixed this, tuned that, turned down this, turned that up, learned how to do better interviews. Not every interview is easy. A lot of the people that I did work with were like, it was just like, yo, it was just... the people that I did interviews with, all the people that I did, everybody from my man Dub Work to everything to my man DP, everybody, in between that, everybody that I did, Billy, Pinnacle, all these people I interviewed, Clus, all these people I interviewed were just, each interview was different, and you learned something from each person. It might not be the most enlightening thing or most life-changing thing you learn from these people, but you just get an understanding to it. And that was the one thing about this whole experience of starting a podcast. I didn't know that a podcast was even possible for a guy like me. I went through my life trying to do something creatively and just express myself and put out information and talk about things that I wanted to talk about because simply I wanted to basically put out my thoughts into the air and see if anyone was, paying attention, or just put that what I thought was important out there, because I just felt like nobody was talking about the things that I wanted to talk about. And, I looked at what things that I was good at, and I always felt like interviewing people and sitting down and talking to people was something I was good at. I was great at conversations. So I said to myself, why don't I just do a podcast? That was 3 years ago. I thought about doing it, but, podcasting was still new. I thought I needed to go to a studio and pay all this money to get it done. And I ended up learning just to do it on my own. And you don't necessarily always need a studio. Sometimes you just need to do it yourself. You got to teach yourself. And that's something that I definitely learned through this process. It's never easy. You're nobody's paying attention to you. And you're putting yourself out there when it seems like nobody cares. You're starting a podcast. This person over here, they're definitely not checking out your shit because they might not, care for your topic or care for the person you're interviewing. That person over there just doesn't like you for whatever reason, but they still follow you on social media. Or this person they just follow you because they want to be on your podcast, but they particularly don't want to give you the credit for it because they're like, fuck that. I don't really fuck with that dude. Stuff like that. You deal with people, you deal with those kind of things when you're trying to put yourself out there. That could be for anything, whether it's a blog, podcast, your music, whatever. You're going to deal with secret haters, open haters, people who just don't give a shit about what you got going on. And then you got all the supportive people. And I received support from people I didn't even know. Some people I received support from, man, I didn't even know. And it was crazy because I was like, wow, I didn't think I was going to get this kind of support from people, but I did. I got DMs from people. I got emails from people, and all the people were like, yo, man, this is great. Just keep doing your thing. This is awesome. And a lot of the people I interviewed just were like, you should see the look on on some of these people's faces when they put the earphones down and they're just like, wow, man. They're just like, whoa. Like, I didn't expect to talk about all these things. And their minds are blown because they finally got to dig into their story. And I always wanted to tell people's story. I always wanted to give people a platform to tell their story because there's a million different stories out there to tell. and not everybody's story is the same. They're much unique, you know. And I wanted to be able to talk to people and just like, you know, really relax and just have a conversation with people, maybe get to know these people on a scale that was different from what I already knew from them. And it did. And it was an amazing experience. You know, you deal with a lot when you're trying to interview people, because people have all their own thoughts. You deal with their own, you know, insecurities. They might not want to talk about this subject, that subject, and some people aren't as open. I was blessed to meet a lot of people that once we got into the format of the interview, you know, they got it. You know, some people, they never even listened to the podcast, but they wanted to be on it, or they were cool with being on it, and they were like, yeah, I'll do it. They never listened to one episode, and then after that, they listened to an episode. Like, whoa, okay, now I get what he was trying to do on the interview. It takes time. People aren't always trusting of you in the beginning, and that's something I definitely kind of learned. You know, with each interview, you know, I remember I interviewed my man Pop, and I hadn't seen this guy maybe in, I want to say close to maybe 15 years. I ain't really seen this dude in a long, long time. And we sat there and we had a real conversation about a lot of different topics, from, you know, manhood to just business to what kind of things you had to do to get yourself where you need to be. And it was one of the better episodes. It was episode 11. And I got to talk to him, and it opened my mind up to a lot of different things, because his perspective was a lot different than mine, but he saw things on a different scale, and even in social media wise. And I understood it after I got to talk to him. I was like, yo, this is dope, man. Like that was one of my favorite episodes, because it was just something different. It wasn't your typical episode. Like, we really went into a lot of different stuff, man. So it was that was one of the episodes that really stood out to me. And then, you know, my very first episode with Dub Work was amazing, because it was just like, yo, I was sitting down with a friend, and he allowed me to do this when he could have been like, nah, bro, like, I don't know what you doing, what you got going on here, man. A lot of people, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do the podcast. They'll stun on you because they don't know what it looks like in the beginning. Like, you know how hard it is to get somebody just to come on your podcast on the first one and just get them to do it. Because most people, they don't want to do anything that doesn't help their brand, so-called brand, or their so-called image, because people are image conscious as hell because of social media. They don't want to do it. You know, I'm talking to you guys today, this audience that I built, and I'm thankful every day for that. But it's not easy to get people to come on and open up to you. Some of them are scared they're going to get exposed for being a fraud. And other people just don't feel like, you know, you're important enough for them to be on your show, you know, although they're probably not that important at all, because, I mean, no one's booking you on the Tonight Show, or like, you know, you're not, you know, hosting SNL, so you really aren't that much important, my man. And I think that some people, they believe their own hype, and it's hard to do that. You know, there was a bunch of people I remember I sent DMs to a bunch of people, no response. Or some people would respond, and they would be on that bullshit like, oh, yeah, I'll get back to you. Never heard from them. You know, but you constantly see them posting on Instagram. You constantly see them posting on social media. And you're like, yo, fam, I sent something to you. All you do is reply and let me know when you can do it. And, you know, you kind of realize at that point that most people are bullshitters. And, you know, not that I didn't know that already, but you would think because you're doing them a favor. And when someone's doing an interview for you and for your brand, that's considered like, yo, that's how can I say this? That's a major thing. That's like, you should be excited and humbled by that moment, because that person doesn't necessarily have to even come to you to do the interview. They can go to other people, bring other people on their podcast. They're giving you their platform. You know, I purposely didn't try to go for people who had like huge social media followings and or were like huge on social media, or like they needed to be important or feel important, because most times those kind of people are the worst interviews, because they don't necessarily like, they're far more into their hype than being who they are. And that's something that I had to learn. I learned years ago, really. I had to really learn that, like, they're into the hype. They're not really into who they are. You know, they don't want to put out who they are. And on my interviews, you're going to tell me who you are. I'm going to get you to open up. On every episode that you will hear on my podcast and that you listen to over the season, I hope that you got that idea, because that's what I do, man. I like to get people to talk. I like people to put their 2 cents in. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to know why you are who you are today. And that was the best thing about my podcast this season. Was like I was able to really talk to a lot of people who weren't afraid to be who they are. And although you could still see they were still growing as a person, it was just amazing to be in that situation and talk to them and be there, putting out this information and putting something together that was going to be amazing. I knew that my podcast could be amazing. I know that sitting down and talking to people was going to be amazing, but I didn't know how it was going to be received. I was always afraid that it was going to be received, or ignored or just received negatively because it wasn't what everyone wanted to hear. Sometimes you got to do what nobody really wants to do in order to make things work. You have to sometimes do things that aren't the norm. You got to do things that people aren't really always going to be comfortable with as well. I wasn't always comfortable sitting on a mic talking to people. Shit, my first interview on this podcast, season 1, it was amazing. Season 1 was amazing. That first one, I did that with Dubs, man. He had to tell me to slow down. He was like, yo, you got to slow down. You got to talk, man. I don't know. You're like mad stiff. You got to let it go. You got to talk. You can't be like, you got to loosen up and talk. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And eventually, that one came off really well, man. We talked about a whole bunch of shit. And, I talked to, other people down the road, and it got better. There was some interviews that I did where I didn't like the way it came out. I'm not going to mention those, obviously, but it didn't come out the way I wanted it to come out. But eventually, as I started listening to it, it started to come out a little bit better. Sometimes in the beginning, it's rough because you don't know that person all that well. They don't know you all that well. And you're trying to build a rapport on the spot. And so, with most of my interviews, I never really give nobody questions or stuff to go over before I interview them. That's shit. Like, we're here to have a conversation. If you want me to give you something to go over, then obviously you don't really know just to have a conversation with me. We're just having a talk. I'm not here to sit there and ask you a bunch of complicated questions for you to complicatedly answer them so you can bore the shit out of my audience. I want to talk to you. What the fuck are you about? And some people are just not that about anything other than, hey, look, let me post a bunch of pictures and you're going to like it. Or, hey, let me go on Facebook or Twitter and just make a whole bunch of comments about stuff. But when you get in front of them, they freeze up. They freeze up quick. They don't got much to say. And, that's one thing I had to learn, was that not everybody has something to say just because they go on there highly opinionated when they're on social media or they're putting something out there. Some people are just not built for that. They can go out and spew a bunch of bullshit, but when it comes down to getting them and now you're pressing them, they don't know how to do that. They bitch up, so to speak, real quick. So you have to be aware of that. Not everybody is who they seem. Not to go on a tangent or a long-ass rant about that, but that's part of it. That's part of starting a podcast or starting anything where you're dealing with somebody on a one-on-one basis, is that not looks can be deceiving as hell, and so can what you see on social media. You got to be quick to understand that not some people are good at fronting, so to speak, but it's an amazing feeling right now, and I wish I had more like descriptive words I guess I could use on this podcast to describe things. But these past few months, I've creatively been able to tap into who I am creatively, and it's been an amazing ride. It's been hard. There's a lot to deal with when you get older and you're trying to make something happen, and you sometimes feel like the boat has passed you by and that you missed that boat, and you should have been on that boat 10 years ago. You should have been on that boat 15 years ago. You're now in your late 30s and you're trying to do something creative. Bro, you should have done that when you were in your 20s or your early 30s. Why are you trying to do this now? You should be married with a kid and a house. You shouldn't be thinking about doing any of this shit. You should be going to work. Basically what you're saying is you should just be a drone, and because you didn't do anything before to make sure you couldn't be a drone at this stage of your life. But I decided to do it. You know, you can't be afraid to go out and do it. I don't care what age you are, man. Please believe that there are people who have done more shit in their 40s than most people have done through their 20s and 30s. It's just how life works. Life is not something that can be quantified in a moment of time. It's so much more than that. And you have to believe in that. And that's what I believed in with this podcast. Like, who would have thought I would have done this many people, I would have interviewed this many people and been able to do this all on my own when I had no idea how to do any voice editing prior to this. I had no idea. All I do was I used to be in the studio with my man Dubs and watching all the producers he would bring in there and doing their thing, and I would just be sitting there like, okay, I have no clue. Okay, did we track this? Cool, this sounds dope. Can we send this out? Cool, all right. You know, that's the kind of thing I was thinking about. I wasn't trying to think about doing this kind of stuff. And the other stuff that I had done in the past, you know, like, Real Biz Radio that I had started with a few friends. You know, shout out to Danielle, shout out to my man Billy, shout out to DJ Pinnacle, shout out to Evan, shout out to everybody that was down there in that basement doing the damn thing. And, you know, those people, like, you know, I was producing a show. I wasn't on the show. I wasn't a personality. But when you do a podcast and you decide to do it yourself, you got to do it yourself. You know, you're the only person that can do it. What I learned about this is, like, no matter what I do, I can't expect anybody to do it for me. I can't expect anybody to ride with me. I can't expect anybody to see my vision. Sometimes it's hard. You feel alone. You feel alone because you feel like you got nobody to rely on. Nobody really understands your experiences. Nobody understands how hard it is. Nobody understands the late nights or the early mornings when you got to get up and you got to post this, and then you got to get from that. After you post that, you got to promote it yourself. Sometimes the people you interview, they don't even promote it themselves. They wait until like the day of to post it. They make no effort to try to post it prior to that, and it's because it's not big enough for them. It's like oh. I guarantee you they would post it all day long or push it on social media all day long if it was, you know, some big star. If they were like on Noriega's podcast or some other big podcast. Oh my God, we're going to be on this podcast. Check it out. We'll be on this interview. Check out this interview. Some people, they don't care about that. They don't care about your little ass podcast. If it's not something that's gonna bring real value to them, they don't care about that. They'll of course they'll do the podcast, but you know they don't really promote it or push it even afterwards. Where they should, you know, push it for a solid 5 days. Hell no, they don't promote nothing, especially if there's no money involved or nothing that they can see as being super tangible to their brand, so to speak. You know. So, you know, you have to deal with that. You know, you don't want to always come out there and check people. You got to text them like, yo, bro, are you going to like post it or not, man? Sometimes I had to do that. You know, no doubt I had to do that. Like I couldn't bullshit. I had to do that. You know, sometimes I had to check people like, yo, what the fuck? Are you going to post it or not post it? Some people I just completely fell back on and realized like, yo, fuck it. They ain't going to do shit with it. It's not my purpose to chase them down to do this. I'm on to the next one because I realized that no one's going to love it as much as you do. And no one's going to push it as much as you do until you have such a big enough platform that now it's important for them to do that so they can look good. So you have to always remember that that's the industry at the end of the day. The industry is always about trying to make yourself look bigger than you are. The industry, like this, is this, you know, it's just camera, lights, camera, action. And most of it is Hollywood as a motherfucker. You don't even see it, but you just got to pay attention to the people that do push it and promote it, man. Like my man DP, my man DP and my man Pinnacle killed the promotion level on it. Those two dudes, one, they both made videos. Two, they posted it after it was up. They posted it before it was up. They said it was coming. All these kind of things, and those two dudes know how to promote themselves. And that's what I always tell people, like, yo, you are the biggest fool in the world if you don't promote yourself. My man Pop did the same shit, no doubt. And it's just that you got to want it for yourself. That's something I want. I want this show to work. I want it to work. It's not easy. You know, some days I wish I could just ship my shit off to somebody and have them edit it for me and shit, but I know that doesn't really work. That's not how it works. It's just like, yo, if you want something to happen, if you want something to work for you, sit down, discipline yourself, tune out the rest of the world, get your ass on YouTube, get your ass on howto.com or any howto.com you want to find it, and learn how to do something. You know, I had so many people hit me up like, yo, what do I do to do a podcast, bro? How do I get started? What do I have to do? I would send people all the information that I knew. Do you think they ever followed up on it? No. And it's not my fault they didn't follow up on it or their fault. It just wasn't something they loved to do or something they wanted to do. They had an idea about doing it, but doing it, going out there and really going out and doing it is two different things. You can want to think you want to do something. You can love it. You can talk about it until you're blue in the face. Till I see you do it, you're not really about it. You have to go out and do it. Like, I'm in debt because of what I've tried to do here. And I pushed myself past that point because I realized, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, either I do this now or it never gets done. You're either going to jump off the fucking cliff or you're going to stand there all day long debating what you're going to do. You know what they say? The man who never wins a lotto is the man who never buys a ticket. So you got to go out there and buy the ticket. You got to go out there and just do it. And it's never easy. You know, most people, they like to comment and push people down and put people down because they go out and do something. And most of those people are losers. They're never going to really do anything. Their names will just, fade away as time goes by. They're not important enough to they didn't go out there and do something, that's going to last a little while and go out there and do it. Now, I'm not saying that this podcast is going to be like the ultimate and it's going to last forever, but I damn sure am going to try to make a name for myself and leave it out there and hope that people tune in and will listen to it. And the one thing I can say is I'm so humbled by all the people that actually really did show love. And I didn't expect all that. I spent a lot of time talking about all the bullshit that goes along with doing this, but I didn't talk about all the positive shit that does come with this. Sitting there talking to people and having a good conversation with people and getting to know these people has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. I got there to sit there and talk to people who never in the world would I think I got to sit there and just listen to their stories, from people being in dire situations to people overcoming some of the worst things you can think of that can happen to you, to the point where you're losing who you are and it's not even your fault. This is the shit that's happening to you. And people overcoming amazing things to do amazing things and continue to do those things is such inspiration for me. And, me starting out to become a photographer and pushing this business that I'm trying to do now, and not trying to doing, I should say. And it's an inspiration for all those people that I got to interview. I got to sit down with, none of my interviews were ever easy. Some interviews I had to scrap and go back and do because they didn't get done. I'm quite sure there's people who I interviewed probably never going to listen to the podcast again. But at the end of the day, it was just good to be around those people and soak up the energy and soak up the knowledge that you receive from people. So those are the pluses, man. It has been a hell of an experience. When you learn to do something and now you can do it, people might pay you for it. Now I can do voice editing. Now I know how to produce a podcast. I know how to put music together for a podcast. I know how to cut things down to the point where this works and that doesn't work. You build up a rhythm, you test your stuff, you get it out there. Some things might not be good, some are going to be great, but you got to go out and do it. Don't be afraid to be yourself. You just got to love yourself. Once you know yourself, it's not been easy. I've gone through several iterations since I was 21 years old of who I am. I've had to change. I've gone from being Red Havoc, that was my name back in the day, to Red, just simply Red, to cutting it down to where I left Red alone and went straight to Brian Johnson, and that's who I am today. I had other iterations in between that. I went from just being Red to B. Everyone just knew me as B. Oh, yo, B. And then, you go through different iterations of who you are. You reinvent yourself. I went from this guy who wanted a nice, cushy job and a house and a car and a beautiful wife and kids and all that kind of stuff to saying, fuck all that shit. I'm trying to go out here and do this. And I want to be a motivational speaker. And I want to go out here and I'm going to be a life coach. And now I'm going to be a photographer. I'm going to do, what I'm trying to say is you are going to go through many iterations in life. It doesn't matter. Whatever you choose to be is what you will be. You just got to accept the fact that not everything is written in stone. You can't just be one thing and think that's all you're going to be. You can't just say, oh, I'm just going to be a barber all my life and just work underneath somebody. You're probably not going to do that. You're going to have some aspirations eventually to open up your own shop, so that turns you into an entrepreneur. Like I always say to people, you are only who you are by what you think. In other words, if you think this is who you're going to be, then that's all you're going to be. If you want to choose to think that you can be more, you're going to be more. You just got to decide to be who you want to be, whatever that may be. I can't tell you what that is. I can't give you the answers. All I can tell you is you have to make a decision. Doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. It just means you just got to decide to do it. I lost my job back in January. It was kind of my own thing. I kind of said, fuck that job. I hated it, man. It wasn't my thing. And I went to a friend of mine who owns a cake shop, and I had a cake made for my stepmother because it was around her birthday. And she told me, and I asked her, do you ever want to be on the podcast? And she smiled and said, send me the questions. I'll do that. And now for me, I knew that wasn't my thing. I wasn't trying to do no questionnaires and stuff like that. I'm not going to send you a question packet. That's not me. But she said to me, I lost my gig years ago, and now look at me here. I'm with my own shop. I'm doing my thing. And, you just got to stick with it, whatever you're trying to do. I don't care what it is. You just got to just stick with it. It'll work out if you really want it. And she was living, breathing proof. And I've had other friends who are just the same. And it helped me a lot because I might not be where I need to be today, but I do believe no matter what age I am, I'm going to make it happen. I got to stop it. A lot of us, we get caught up in worrying about we're going to be too old to enjoy the fruits of our labor. The sad part about it is if you're too old to enjoy the fruits of your labor, then you shouldn't even start it because you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy life no matter what age you are. You got to continue to enjoy life. It's not about what age that you are today. It's about what age do you want to say, I give up and stop. Don't stop. You got to keep going. You got to keep moving forward. I don't know how this turned into a low motivational speech, but I just want to express how much this, everything about this thing means to me, I don't know if anybody in this place, in this world knows how much this means to me to do this, because this took a lot of courage. It took a lot of balls to do, because I definitely could have screwed this up, screwed the pooch, as they say, and been shitting on myself, but I didn't do that. You can't be afraid to fall on your face and take a rag, wipe your face off, stand back up, and keep moving, because that's all that life really is. Every day we get up, we go to work. For many of us, some of us don't. But the day we stop getting up and going to do something with our lives every day is the day we give up. Life is about purpose. You should eat and love and do things that you want to do in life. And that's really what you should do with your life. Life is not about obtaining billions of dollars. I hate to say it, but it's really not. And that's not because I'm broke. I just know I've been on both sides. I had a lot of money, and it didn't make me any happier than I was when I was broke. It's just that you got to do something with yourself other than just sit around and try to do nothing or try to make your life go in one direction. Life is never going to do that for you. It's always going to be in many directions. And as you can see, me starting this podcast meant my life is going on different directions. Who knows what next season will bring? Next season will be out in August, and I don't know who I'm going to interview. I got a lot of life adjustments to work on through this podcast and make sure I'm consistent like I was on the first season. It took a lot of work to get here, but I'm going to get there, get back to it. Next season, I don't know. I can't even tell you who's going to be on next season yet, because obviously I'm still working on that. There's so much to do, but look out for next season. Next season will be down by the third week of August. It should be out. I'm not going to put it out in the very beginning of August. I think right now we're just working on putting together another season, and it might be in the beginning of August. I may just change things up. It might be in the beginning of August, but it's definitely going to be at least a little 2-week hiatus here where I am just going to take a chill pill, work on a few things, and just take care of business, man. And focus on taking care of business. Not much else, I just want to, want things to go better in my own life, and I want to see things happen for people around me. And I hope that, next season I can bring a whole bunch more. A lot of people are hitting me up and want to be on the show, so that's a fucking dope thing. And season 1 is in the books, man. Season 1, it's a wrap. And as my man Hooligans say, that's a wrap, as they say on that show. And I just want to say thank you to everybody, man. Shout out to my girl Adeline for sticking by me through this. I know it wasn't easy. Shout out to her brother Franklin Morales. He's dope graphic artist, and he hooked up the logo. So shout out to him. Shout out to every single one of my guests. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I wouldn't have made this show happen if it wasn't for y'all. So thank you so much for giving me a shot and taking your time out of your life to do this for me. I appreciate every moment of it, man. And that's all I can really say, man. So stay tuned for next season. Like I said, man, if you want something, you got to go out and do it, and you got to make it happen yourself. Don't look for the rest of the world to give you what you want. Just go out there and fucking take it, and let everybody else figure it the fuck out, and do you, and take care of yourself. And like I said, man, eat well, love well, and enjoy your fucking life, because you only get one shot at this bitch, man. So till next season, be safe. All right, take care. 1.